So generally oversteer is when the rear of the car tries to overtake the front of the car in the simplest way. All sorts of stuff can cause it. It can be getting on throttle too soon, causing the rear wheels to spin up, and when you've got steering lock on, the car's going to keep going wherever you've been steering because it just kind of rotates itself on kind of almost like a pivot. You can also get it on the entry to corners. If when you hit the brakes really hard, all the weight goes to the front, there's no weight on the rear, your rear wheels lock up under braking and it just sends your car into a spin, almost like pulling the handbrake. If you're driving on the road and you just pull the handbrake up, you'll spin. Same idea as that. So basically it's the car trying to swap ends, we say. That's the term that's used in motorsport. And yeah, like I said, lots of stuff can cause it, but generally it's just carrying in too much speed into a corner or getting on the power too soon. So all these things are being kind of, when the processes are rushed and when the inputs are rushed, that's when you get this effect. It's very easy to catch if you know how to catch it. It's very different to the road. On the road they teach you to kind of almost turn into it and try, because that's the safest way to stop, to get it over and done with quickly. But in a race car, generally you're dealing with oversteer quite a lot because an oversteery car is a fast car because you can manipulate the way the car moves a little bit more. But it's quite a lot harder to sort out than understeer. So it takes a little bit of adjustment to get used to. But once you've kind of got comfortable with the feeling of a car oversteering, it can be a great tool to have and a really efficient way to have a car set up. You look at the best drivers in the world in the likes of F1, you look at Verstappen, he likes a very oversteery, snappy car. He's doing all right for himself. So, it works if you can know how to handle it.
So what happened there?
Basically just picked up the throttle too early. So that was more wheel spin as opposed to kind of oversteer under load. But that's what happens when you get on the throttle too soon, the rear wheels spin up and you lose grip, and because you had right-hand steering lock down, that means that the car's just going to go carry on wherever it was pointed, which was to the right. So that was a good example of kind of slow speed corner exit oversteer.
Right, so what happened there?
That was basically you carrying too heavy on the brakes on the turn in. So you've hit the brakes nice and hard and you've turned in, but then you've not rolled off the brakes, so all the weight is on the nose. So the rear of the car's lifted up in the air essentially. So as you've turned in, there's no weight on the rear, so it's just spun round because there's nothing pinning the rear of the car down to the ground. Yeah, so changing down the gears as well, that can also have an effect. Changing down the gears too quickly, you basically just lock the rear axle, and that can send you into a bit of oversteer. So this is on kind of basic corner exit, bit of oversteer, coming back onto throttle, but it's all started from the braking phase. So you push your brake in really late, so the red lap's the kind of more optimal lap, white lap being the oversteery lap. You brake much later, probably, that's probably 20, 30 metres, so a big distance later. Similar technique, really good braking technique, but then you can see as soon as you've gone back to kind of start to pick up the throttle again, so at this point here, we've got this little peak of throttle here, you can see the steering lock difference. You've had a massive correction as soon as you picked up the throttle. So you've carried too much speed in, although you've done the braking pretty well, you carried way too much speed in, then you've picked up the throttle to go again, the car's got, nope, I'm carrying too much speed, the weight's still transferring around the car, it's almost like jelly, it kind of goes into this weird state. I mean, when the car's coasting and nothing's happening, it's called steady state. And at this point now, you've gone to pick up the throttle, the car's gone, nope, I'm not ready for it, and you've got a big snap of oversteer. And you can see you've had to come out of the throttle again, basically to a full lift, whilst you're correcting this slide. The steering lock's all the way left-hand down, and then eventually, as you picked up the throttle, you've been able to steer up straight again and get back to full. So yeah, it's very obvious there what's happened, and it's all stemmed from braking too late, asking too much, and that's quite common. You see that quite a lot. Drivers who are carrying too much speed into the corners, they then either roll off the brakes too aggressively because they feel like they've lost time because they've gone straight on, and then you get a big snap of oversteer, or they pick up the throttle too soon, the car's not ready for it, and then you get a big snap of oversteer. So there's different phases that it can happen, but generally it all stems from similar issues.
Thank you for watching. If you want to book your own session in SimTrack, follow the link in the description below.